How did FDR radio trust change history? The useful question is not only what happened, but why this one visible object made a hidden system easier to see. Start with the radio microphone. It looks small on screen, but it points to money, labor, rules, movement, and trust. By the end, the pattern is simple. The object matters because it turns abstract power into something people could touch, count, hear, fear, or use. There is also a modern reason this format works. 2016 nostalgia is a useful hook because people understand how one familiar thing can make a whole period feel readable. An old app icon, an old song, or an old screen can pull a viewer back into a system. This story does the same with a radio microphone. We are not pretending the past is simple. We are using a concrete handle so the larger mechanism stays clear. Look at 1930s living room radio. The scene is not decoration. It tells us who had to work, who had to wait, and who had enough authority to make the object matter. That matters because history usually reaches ordinary people through routines. A document is read, a shipment is unloaded, a price is paid, a voice is heard, a line forms, a headline travels. Those small actions are where large systems become believable. The first mechanism is this. Radio carried a calm voice into private rooms during public crisis. This is the part viewers can reuse when the next historical object appears. Do not start with a great man summary. Start with the repeated action. Who touches the object? Who pays for it? Who records it? Who has to trust it tomorrow? Once those questions are visible, the story becomes more than trivia. One example is the way a radio microphone creates a timeline. Before the object spreads, the system is slower, looser, or harder to coordinate. After it spreads, people can compare, demand, plan, and argue in a new rhythm. A timeline is not just dates on a chart. It is the moment when people begin to expect the same object to keep working the same way again. The second mechanism is this. Plain language gave listeners a way to understand policy before panic filled the gap. The important detail is trust. What we know from reliable sources is that institutions rarely change because an object exists once. They change when enough people believe the object will keep producing the same result. That belief can be built by law, habit, fear, profit, or necessity. It can also break quickly if the object stops matching people's lived experience. Now compare the object with the surrounding environment. Look at bank holiday newspaper. A headline, archive, ledger, street, room, or photograph shows the object inside a social setting. The setting keeps the video honest. It stops us from treating technology or policy as magic. Someone had to maintain it. Someone gained leverage from it. Someone else paid the cost. The third mechanism is this. Repetition made federal power feel familiar instead of remote. This matters because visible evidence changes argument. A viewer does not need to memorize every date to understand the pressure. The screen can show the coin, bond, microphone, canal, document, or crowd while the narration explains why the object carried more meaning than its surface suggests. The midpoint turn is where the story becomes less comfortable. The object solved one problem while creating another. Speed can create dependence. Trust can create complacency. Coordination can create exclusion. The deeper pattern is that useful systems often become powerful before people fully understand the trade-off. That is why a good history explainer should not end at invention. It should ask who became stronger once the object became normal. Another example is public memory. People remember FDR radio trust through a clean image. But the clean image hides a messy chain. Material, labor, transport, law, media, and belief all have to connect. When one link fails, the object stops looking inevitable. When the links hold, it feels natural, and that feeling of naturalness is often the real historical victory. The risk is overclaiming. We do not need to say one object caused everything. The stronger claim is more precise. The object made a system legible, repeatable, and emotionally believable. That is enough. It gives viewers a reason to keep watching because each minute adds a layer rather than repeating the same point. So what should viewers care about? This matters because communication is not decoration around policy. In a crisis, the form of explanation can decide whether people wait, panic, cooperate, or give up. The value of this story is that it gives a compact mental model. Find the object, inspect the routine, follow the trust, then ask who gains power when the routine becomes normal. There is a second visual way to read the microphone. Imagine a family sitting near a radio while banks are closed, jobs feel insecure, and newspapers cannot answer every fear. The microphone does not solve the crisis by itself. What it does is shape the emotional room in which policy is received. A calm explanation can slow panic long enough for an institution to act. A headline shows the other half of the story. Print could announce a policy, but voice could pace it. Roosevelt's advantage was not only access to technology, it was the match between medium, moment, and message. Radio made explanation feel domestic. The state was still distant, but the voice gave listeners a way to imagine it as present. One more viewing detail helps the pacing. Each scene should answer a different question. What does the object look like? Who uses it? What rule surrounds it? What cost appears? And what memory remains after the crisis or change passes? That sequence keeps the video from feeling like a list. It turns the object into a path through cause, consequence, and meaning. The takeaway is this: radio made Roosevelt feel close because it converted distant policy into a familiar voice at the exact moment trust was scarce. If this helped the trend make sense, please like the video and subscribe for fast, no fluff history explainers. I will see you in the next one. If this helped the trend make sense, please like the video and subscribe for fast, no fluff explainers. I'll see you in the next one.